It's not filming, guys. All right, so I won't go over it, but everything has a value. This wall has a value. The lights, everything has a value. Okay, so it tells you what degree of value it's at. And if you've seen have you guys seen a value scale? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I go by the 9 value scale because I like how the middle value of 5 is the middle value. So everything has a certain degree where nothing here is a 1 except maybe this. And probably this would be a 1. And now a 9 would be these darks here. And it would be something that's really black. Really black. And those we don't use up. We say those for the end. But let's go to this really quickly. So how do I get this craziness? Squint down. Are those two the same value or two different values? The same. But open your eyes. Do you see how that's got an oranginess and that's got a yellowness? That's the secret to painting. Even like Richard Schmidt in his Alla Prima book. That's all he talks about. He goes, color change or a temperature change. That's a temperature change, and it's kind of a color change, right? That'll turn the form before a value change. You want to use less values and more of this before you go to the value changes. All right, so, but that's how I get this craziness, and that's how I got like these two, where I went overboard, where people wanted to see craziness. And if you squint down, all these lights hold together and all the darks hold together when you squint down at it. But open your eyes, you see a lot of different color, right? That's what painting is. And this is pushing it. This is actually just working in boring brown, earthy colors too. You could do the same thing, but I just pushed the colors. And this one, we really pushed it. And this is where I did a miscue on the temperature. I think it's a little bit too cold right here. I think that could be a little bit warmer blue instead. Right? That's the only miscue for me. But then look at this purple that's over here.
Okay, so Jerry, this is where I get struggle sometimes. If you're doing the crazy stuff, you got to keep your cools and your warms congruent, correct?
You could do with your warms and cools as we think about planes. Mm-hmm. So what's a plane?
Yeah.
Plane is, I have a top plane, I have a side plane. Everything's got a plane. There, if you feel this is flat on top and then it turns. Everything's got a plane. And some of those planes are facing the light, and some are turning away, and some are completely turning away. So the ones that are facing the light directly or are partially are light, halftones. Those that are turned away completely are in the shadow, okay? So some of those planes that are turning away that aren't, so if you look at my hand, do you see how bright it is? Mm-hmm. So those would be the warmer planes sometimes, or they could be the cooler. Depends how creative you want to get. As it turns away from that light source, do you see how my hand's getting darker? Mm-hmm. Do you see it? Mm-hmm. So they start to cool down, and then completely away, that's the shadows. Now there's a lot of light on here, so the shadows have a lot of reflected light in there. Okay? But that I know we talk about warm light, cool shadows, cool light, warm shadows. Kind of. Okay, but we'll talk about that. We'll go over it because it's one day I'll hit you with it, and you'll see I'll do it. Well, let me go back to this. Let's go back to this, and we'll stick to this. So I'm going to make her forehead this simple value. And how do I mix to get the same value? I just squint at my palette. I squinted at this. When I mixed that, I squinted at it and compared it to here. Now I got this green and this yellow ochre, and I'm squinting and comparing it to that, right? And that's telling me it's the same value. That's how easy this is. Don't make it hard. And, and just for this, we'll go this way. Okay, does that look lighter when I squint at it? Yeah, it looks a little lighter. So I got to go a little darker. And now it's a little bit too, there we go. And I can put that here. Why does it work? Because it's the values are the same, okay? Now, if I stick this here, it might not work as well. And it actually, because the brush was dirty, it looks darker, right? Because it's coming forward, this area is coming forward. So let's throw some warmth on it. So if the plane's coming forward, see how I warmed up that blue? It should probably have more warmth. If it's going back, then cool. On the flesh. Outside, it's different. Okay, a landscape, you can't do that because the sun's the brightest, warmest thing, and it's in the background. Why isn't it coming forward? And that has to do with edges. Edges are a big thing. How you doing? You can grab a spot, or just let me get this. Take a seat. Let me get this demo done. If you want, we could sit you right here or something, or over here. Just put your stuff down.
I'm in Mike's class. I just found out.
Oh yeah, just take a seat right here. Mike got a little sick. If I didn't like Mike, he wouldn't be in here. If I didn't like Mike, you wouldn't be here. Are you guys in Mike also?
Yeah, we're nice guys too.
All right, we'll adjust the easels so we get enough easels. I know there's enough in here. All right, so as you can see, if you even look at it with your eyes open, you could see because of the warm to cool, it actually looks like it's turning. It's just one of those optical illusions. But it also has to do with the edge because the edges are soft. All right, and this is fast, so I'm going really fast, and let me know if I forgot anything. But I know you guys know a lot.
Sorry, I want to confirm, so you started with a sort of orange, you shall call it, an oranger flesh tone, then you drew another plane next to it with more yellow or an
Yes.
yellow ochre kind of.
So here, and then I threw a green here that was warm because it had some of the flesh in there. So I mixed the green, but I mixed that.
Because it's turning away from the light.
Well, yeah, because this, if you look at this kind of turns away. And then up here, I might go a little warmer because that's where it's facing the light source. And that's one way of thinking when you're being creative, is you got to kind of come up with a game plan for those temperatures. Okay, I'm going by the direction of the light source, what is lit, what is in shadow, but I'm not going by any of these temperatures. I'll go by these highlights, and I'll probably pick one highlight that's stronger than the others, and it's not going to be this one, even though this is stronger because it just looks like a zit, right? So I'll probably make one of these a little stronger and a little bit something here. Okay, that's the creativity. You want to be, I don't want to be a painter. I want to be an artist. I want to create, you know, and you know, people ask me, who do you create for? I don't create for students. I don't create for other artists. I don't care. I create for myself, and I create for collectors because I want to sell these paintings, right? And it's not a bad thing to think that way. It's just, you know, you come up with your own way of thinking. Let's see if I got a crazy red. I do. Okay, here's a nice, this red is still kind of cold. See how cold it is? Now, I know some of these cheekbones might be a little, they turn, right? And maybe that's turning here. Now I'll go and make a warmer red with a little orange, and all I did was add orange to it.
You're aiming for that same value.
Yeah, see, squint down, see how I changed it?
Yep.
Now that's turning on its own. That's Richard Schmid's 40 degrees of whatever. I don't know, he says it. He doesn't like to think too technical. Because I had a friend who explained it to him. He was a student of his. He came to my class about 4 years ago. He goes, here's what I showed Schmidt. He had this grid. Guy's got a engineering mind. Great painter, though. See Clayton Beck. He had a grid on there and a sphere and how the temperatures work. And everyone's like, it's going over our head. But he goes, I had all this. I showed it to this Richard Schmidt, if you know who he is. Richard Schmidt said, stop. I'm an artist. I'm not a scientist. I don't want to know. I just want to know it works. And that was great. And I'm like, okay, I'm back. Because I know Clay, artist. You know, he just has a scientific mind. But for me, I just show me it, I'll use it, or I won't use it, or I'll use it a different way. That's all I care about. I want to be an artist first, okay? And then, so this, I know through painting, this area is thin, so it gets cooler because the blood vessels come through, right? So I could cool down here. Now this is a real advanced thing. You guys don't have to do this, but what am I doing here? Warm, cool, warm. As these planes turn, everything's got a plane, and I'll bring the planes of the head in. There's a warm, cool, warm, and that's also what I'm thinking of, but that's really advanced.
But that's what I was trying to.
Yeah. When the planes turn, you could use a different temperature.
Uh-huh.
But if in their lights,
Same value, but different
yes,
temperature.
but just because something's a different plane doesn't mean you make it freezing cold. You just, if it could still be a pink, but it could be a little bit cooler pink. It's really subtle stuff.
But that's how you
Yes,
get
and if you look, and from far, this might really come together.
Yeah.
This really sticks out,
Yeah.
but in the end, they're the same values. And then, softening an edge, all I gotta do is do this. Just the edge. I'm not doing anything, I'm not painting a
licking.
wall,
We're
I'm
not
not licking, I'm not going crazy and beating up the paint. Because if you over blend and lick it, because there's a little blue, a little yellow, and a little red, what does that make? Gray. That's how your paintings get gray, because you keep touching it. Because you have all the primaries underneath there, and as you keep trying, I hope it gets better, I hope it gets better. And you start, that's why you get the gray. That's one of the many reasons
You
why you
left
get
out
gray.
the part where you scream.
Yeah. No, you should scream. You should get mad at yourself. That, you know. It's good. I mean, I've had my times, you know. I walked out of open studios upset when I was younger because, you know, I wasn't getting it. And the older artists would just sit there and laugh. Oh, he'll get
Oh,
it.
yeah.
They told me you'll get it because you're trying. If you stop trying, you're not gonna get it.
Really?
Yeah. And I don't have brown, or do I have brown? Yes, I have brown. Now, you see my tubes are crazy. These paintings are big that I'm doing, so I'm actually going, I think, to those caulking tube paints. They're not the greatest, but, you know, I just use so much paint. They come in caulking tubes. I forget the brand. Novo or something. So now I really warmed up my temperatures. Where can I use that? Oh, that's too dark. We're not going there yet. We're gonna go there. So let's go a little here. Not trying to change that value. Okay?
Yeah,
Not
I'm
yet.
saying, yeah, that's better.
So you're gonna do the whole face in the same value,
Yes,
and then.
to begin with. To be going with. And I'm gonna go a little faster because I wanna get done by 10 o'clock. Otherwise you're wasting you're not here to watch me paint, you're here to learn how to paint. So squint down, did that go a little darker? Yes, so let's make it a little lighter. Let's go a little cooler here. Even though it's darker here, I kept it that light. Let's go with the lips. The lips are, okay, we got enough down for this. Okay, so we have our darks, we have our lights. The parts that start to do the modeling, I call those the halftones. I call them the transitional values. You guys might have learned something else. Tell me, because I like to hear everything. So where this dark meets this light, you can see it starts to get soft, right? And those are just different facets turning towards the light or away, and it's starting to get a little darker. Or if you start from here, it starts to get a little darker. If you start from here, it starts to get a little lighter. So everything I'm going to do, and let me grab this. Unless someone has a value scale on them.
No. I just happened to.
My plantar fasciitis is gone, so I get to run.
It's just a what?
Yeah, to make sure this is still going. We wanna get a copy.
Yeah, that was a nice sketch of one of the two.
Take a copy too. No, I wanna get a copy of you. Video he's doing, so I'm making sure it's here.
So,
Usually
yeah.
video.
I'll send you guys this, and this is our value scale. This is 9 values. So here's the mid-tone. One thing I do is, we could talk about it later, but if you look at my palette, and this is one reason why I don't put a value down, see how, if this was clean, this would be this 5th value. Okay? So that's why I don't have to put a wash down, because this is gonna keep me straight. Because if you look, when I put this down here, this blue next to this white looks darker, but this blue here doesn't look as dark next to this darker color because of contrast. Is it simultaneous contrast, they call that? So we have an average light, say here, and we have an average dark, say here. So all my work now is gonna be in these values, right? But I'm gonna kind of stick to this mid-tone value. You see here, a little bit here, here. You'll see I'll stick there, and where I soften edges, I'll either soften a little lighter or I'll soften a little darker. It'll never get as light as the lights, and it'll never get as dark as the shadows that I put down. It takes a little time to learn that, but it's easy. All right, so now we'll do the halftones. We'll do the halftones. What temperature are the halftones? They could be a little cooler or warmer. They're all over the place.
It depends.
Okay, but squint down. Do you see how it's lighter than the dark?
Yeah, it's dark.
And it's darker than the light. See, she's taking the class, she knows. And then squint down. Do you see how it's the same value as the palette?
Almost indistinguishable.
Yeah, and that's, I've practiced that. Like, I'll sit there and I made sure I could mix a mid-tone automatically. Because my wife doesn't paint, but we were driving to Monument Valley. We were playing the what's the value game. And I said, just think about black and white and what a mid-tone is. So I taught her what a mid-tone was. And then I go, what's that sky? And she goes, is it close to white or is it close to black? It's closer to white. But is it closer to white or is it closer to the mid-tone? It's closer to white still. Then it's probably a 2. It's not gonna be white. The sky's not gonna be white, but that sky was probably about right here as we're driving to northern Arizona, right? So then that's how she figures it out. And if she could do it, she has a PhD, but she could do it, I'm sure everyone else could do it. Because if I could do it, I'm an idiot. She likes me dumb. She likes me good looking and dumb, she says. But I'm dumb. I'm dumb as could be, and I love it because that's how a painter should be. You want to learn this stuff and not think. It's like they talk about who's a great actor, like De Niro and who's the guy. He could have been my what's his name? I played The Godfather.
Marlon Brando.
Marlon Brando. They said those guys are dumb. They're great. Why are they great actors? Because they're dumb. You know, it's in them and it just happens. You know, you don't want to overthink. Another painting that I have studied, Morgan Weisling, he has painting without a brain. Why? I don't want you to think. I just want you to react to it. Learn drawing value edges in color. Practice that. Get those things down and don't think. And in my class, my daytime class, we do a lot of talking. And some people, the new people, why do you talk so much? I go, because I don't want you to think too hard. I want you to be distracted. Kind of like when you're driving and you get somewhere, you're like, I don't remember getting there. That's when your best paintings happen. You're like, what happened? You know, that's how it has to be. No, right? You know what the class is about. All right, so midtones. So where can I put these midtones? I could put them here. Do you see how I just matched that?
Mm-hmm. Starting to turn already.
Yeah, so it's turning, but there's going to be some values in between both ways. Where else can I put? Maybe there's something here. And even this, one thing I'm a stickler about is these lower planes of the nose have to be in there before the nostrils. You have to get dark enough before you put the nostrils because value will make it look like a pig nose, right? Now her lips are also in that value range, so we can go a little darker. And if I keep the values, we could keep her lips. We could keep her lips green. And look, we kind of accepted green lips just because you see enough kids wearing certain things, you know. And now here's I'm going with a little darker halftone because her lips get a little darker here and here. I never paint anything through. I break it up. If I see a dark line there, I don't paint that dark line. I break it up. Nothing even, nothing the same, no even numbers in paintings. Everything is odd. Sometimes if you're painting an object that has 4 or something, yes, but everything has to be odd. Nothing even. I call it pack of hot dogs. You ever look at a pack of hot dogs, 4 hot dogs, how boring that is? I mean, take out one, it looks better. Or throw them on the counter and take off one, it looks better when they're all jumbled up, right? Things should be uneven. Uneven. So let's go to her eyes. So this area is in the halftone range. What am I doing? I'm squinting down and comparing this to this area, and this area. When I compare it to this, it looks darker. And I'm going to keep my halftones close to one color just for speed. I'm doing a little bit too much talking. Maybe not. I'm getting bored with it already. But do you see how I'm mixing into my lights and making it squint down again? See it? Perfect gray. Perfect midtone. Perfect 5. Now, this is just a one-day class. It's you know, there's only so much I could teach you in this one day. Let's warm it up. See how squint down, and if your eyes are open, I warmed it up, but I kept it the same value. And then I could soften the edge delicately. Don't overdo it, and it fits right in. Okay, we're not here to render things to look like a photo. If you are, that's not what the class is about. And sometimes I get lazy. I got all these colors and I don't grab them. I gotta grab them. There's a halftone there. So what I'm doing now is the rendering part. It's going from light to dark. So I'm going to show you on the forehead. The light to the dark. And let me put a little bit more dark here. So now I have the midtone, I have the light. But see how hard that looks? It looks too hard. So let's do a value in between. I'm not blending this. Let's get some color. And then I'm going lighter. So right now that's looking softer because I put 3 different values. I'm going to put one more on this side and then I can soften it. So I just did that, not with just 2 strokes of dark and light. I did 3 other ones. And now I could sit there and slowly blend them together, right? If you just do 2, make sure it's in a small area, that's not important. But try to have 3 or 4 different colors in there before you do any kind of blending. Same thing with the nose. You can see the halftone and the dark. The dark on her nose is pretty dark. But I think we need a darker halftone in between these 2. See how that softened that edge? And then I think the nose is a little, because of the planes, the way they face, they probably get a little bit lighter here. And I added a little bit warmth. And then as it touches the flesh, it becomes a halftone here. But then we have to make it warmer because it's starting to get into this blood vessel area. This is the blood vessel area, this is the yellow ochre area, this is the gray area. Why is it gray? Because of facial hair, right? Or follicles, I guess. Women really don't have it, but it does get gray. And then I'm gonna go with a little more cool. And then I'm gonna go back to something a little darker than my average light. So, but what did I do? I had big pools of color and I mixed into them. But look at my colors. See how it's going cool to warm, light to dark, right? There's some organization. When you can't see that, scrape this palette off and start over, okay? If this is messy, this is gonna be messy. If there's not enough paint here, it's gonna hurt your painting. See how you don't see the palette coming through the paint mixtures? That's enough paint. If you're mixing and you're seeing the palette come through like that, then there's not enough paint. You're not using enough paint. You gotta use more paint. Let's do the eyes because I know you guys like eyes. All right, so her eyes are brown. Let's warm them up here. Let's warm it up there. And I'm gonna go really fast. And I'm just gonna talk as I'm going. So I'm doing the dark above the eye. I'm gonna restate some of the midtones around the eye that are darker than the average flesh. Oops, that was too light. I already established that this was darker. So darker, do you see how the eye's starting to sit back there? Where this one's coming forward because the edge is too hard? Now we have the whites of the eyes. The whites of the eyes are coming. We call them the whites of the eyes, but that's the one thing that throws a lot of people off. Is why do you make them white? We don't make them white. Let's go with the blue. A dirty gray. I'm putting it in. Now the value, what is the value of the whites of the eyes? Squint down. Are they as light as this? No. They're more in the mid-tone or the half-tone mid-tone range, but maybe just a little bit lighter. And because they're next to a dark, they're not gonna look as dark as you think they are. And I use different brushes. Don't worry about it. I use different brushes, big and soft. And people ask what size brush. Everyone says, well, they say use a big brush. Some people say use, whatever brush you want. My thing is just use something in between if you're uncomfortable with a big. Like, I could use this for this whole painting because I've done that for years. But I could also use this brush to paint this. But if not, then find something that's a little more comfortable in between. So here's the highlight. Let's do yellow on the highlight. A little more. Notice the paint's really thick on the highlight. And I'm going to do the pupil. The pupil is the darkest area. You start to get her eye. Now is she starting to look alive? I think so. She's starting to get some life. Here's the crease of the upper lid. Now notice I'm kind of doing shape to shape, even though I said I don't start that way. I'm kind of sticking in this area where you have the crease. This is the tear duct area. It actually gets lighter and it gets warmer. Warmer. Okay, the white of the eye gets a little darker here as I get closer to the lid. Oops, see that? That was a bad touch right there. This should be lighter. we all have trouble with the whites of the eyes. I like my big Cheyenne girl, her whites of the eyes got too light. And if you look at that painting that I showed you, the photos, I didn't even paint the highlights yet. It's just bare canvas. And they're not truly white. Those highlights are darker. So let's work around the eye. So here it gets a little darker, and it's all because of the anatomy, the planes. It's a little darker. It gets a little darker here, and maybe a little colder, just around here. And I'm squinting down because I'm looking at values, and I see it gets a little lighter here, a little bit darker there. Real
Here, that
subtle.
looks a bit green, is that accurate, or?
What, here?
Right in the turn of the.
Sure, you could make it green, or you can make it whatever color you want. That's what
Sorry for interrupting like that,
Yeah.
this part right in here,
So where does it look green?
to me from back there.
Yeah, that's fine. We're making the colors up. So do whatever you want, but that's an area that might be cooler, but as it goes here, it might get a little bit warmer. See how they're the same value? It's green and red, okay? And also optically, green and red next to each other, it might make a gray sometimes, but it might make a warm gray, depends on what there's more of. So let's do her eyebrow. So if you're having some trouble though, just go ahead with the photo first. If you're having trouble deciding what color, go with the photo, but tell me that as I'm walking around. Say I'm going with the photo first. And then when you have everything down, then you can change the colors. So if I see she has brown eyes, if I get the value right, I could just make her eyes blue now without messing anything up. So see how I used the same value and it didn't hurt anything, right? Because it's the right value. And we know people who have blue eyes, right? So it's easy. You know, our mind explains it for us, okay? I mean, it's pretty easy, right? So here's her eyebrow. Some of the eyebrow gets a little lighter. I'm gonna make it red. I'm gonna push something a little bit now, a little bit more. And we're gonna go with some crazy, crazy colors. I'm gonna make this color here. Okay, and then I'm gonna add a little bit green to it. Now this side of the face is getting more light, so it's more even color, right? It's more even value. So this has to be a little lighter. But see how cold it is? And then we're gonna throw some orange over it right here. You see how that plane turns?
Yeah.
Without even making a value change, okay? Without making a value change.
You mean a temperature change?
A temperature change, that's what we want first. And that's what makes you use whatever colors you want. That's what lets you do this craziness because they're the same values. And I'm gonna show you something at the end to see if you're on the right track. There's a lot of painters who paint this way, you know, and some painters that paint this way, they don't expect, some good painter, a really good painter, like I said, they don't know, they can't explain it. And that's what Clayton used to say about me. You're a good painter, but you can't explain it. So if you want to teach, then go ahead and talk to yourself when you're painting. He was the one that told me that. And that helped a lot. And that's how I was able to explain it. And it took a while. It just didn't come, you know, one or two paintings, but teaching classes. It took a couple years to finally like, okay, here's what's really happening.
You know, I've seen artists work that do this type of thing, and I could never understand how it looks so good. And now I can, you know.
Yeah,
just
and with
by
all those
looking for
colors.
2 minutes of what you're saying.
Yeah. And then you look at some of the post-impressionists, they were doing that with the pointillism, is they were just getting the values. They were just using the values, that's all. This isn't, it's, you know, I got a lot of doctors in my class, so maybe it is hard, because even they have like trouble, but it's not, you know, I don't think you have to be super brainiac to get this. You just have to have the desire to do it. And in the end, it's what looks good here. Not that it looks like the photo. Does it look good here? That's all that matters. Okay? That's the important thing. Almost. I got 10 minutes.
No, oh yeah, but I want you to do some more
Sure.
on the lips.
Oh yeah, I'll do it. So nostrils though, no matter what colors you make, you can make them green if you want, but I always go warm. nostril should be warm. Why? The light comes through the skin, all the blood vessels there, it warms up that cavity. Okay, so the lips. Let's do the lips. It's good. Remember, I went light and then I went darker. We're gonna go darker still. Now, I kind of paint my lips like Sargent just because I'm easily influenced. Someone's dad spent some time with him in New York, a portrait painter in Atlanta, and Sargent told him how he paints lips, and you see it. And it's just, you go bigger than the flesh. You go past the flesh, then you put the flesh over it to soften it. And
So you
that's-
go bigger with the
Yes,
lip and
so
then you
and bigger, and then
put
you
the
cut
flesh
in with the
back.
flesh.
Okay.
That's how you get the soft edges. But Sargent wasn't about lips. He says a portrait is something portrait is something that's wrong with the lips. That if you look at it, it looks like something's wrong with the lips. How's that? Is that right? Say that 10 times. So a portrait is something that's wrong with the lips. That's his saying. So you don't want to paint the lips perfectly, unless it's like I have that painting that's 60 by 60 of that blonde girl, and yeah, that should be, you should have some pretty good lips on there. Okay, everything's got a plane. This eyebrow, I have trouble with eyebrows. It's darker here and it gets lighter here, so the value should be lighter. That makes a softer edge also.
No. It looked like it was floating before.
Yeah. Keep edge-wise, keep all your edges soft. Don't make anything hard. So, see how hard that is? Nothing as hard should be there. That's where it should be, on the contours. On the contours here, you'll find a hard edge. But things should stay soft on the flesh, especially on a pretty girl like this. So we're doing the lips. How do we get them soft? There's still some, now these aren't the lips. This is the lips for me. All of that, right? Because it all connects to each other. Now I haven't had a chance to clean my palette. I should, but you'll see my colors will start to get more gray because everything's mixed. See how it's getting dirty right here? Right there? That's not good. If you go to lunch, clean your palette. Even this class, everything takes time. It took me time to figure out how do I teach this in one day, right? And I think I've got it better. Could be a little better. I get excited though. I get excited painting this way. A lot of my students don't want to paint this way. It's too colorful, which is fine, but you could turn it down. But it also teaches you about temperatures and values, which is everything in a painting. Do you see how soft this is getting? Because I went from dark to the average light to some values that are in between that start to darken it. So the closer the values, the softer the edge. The more far apart the values, see how hard this edge is? Because it's a big jump. But see how soft this edge gets because the value doesn't jump, right? The value doesn't jump here from this object to this object because they're very close in value. I do want to teach a class in doing big paintings.
Yes.
That would be fun.
Yes.
But that would be a week-long class.
Yeah, and where do we get the canvases anymore? You used to be able to get them at Books.
Mike says, big pictures, big mistakes.
Uh-huh.
He says,
Unless you're a well-trained artist, which I'll make you.
okay. He just says that to me, draw small.
Well, it's, you should learn small. Not small, but this size. This is our average size in art school. This sheet right here. It's about 18 by 24. I know that because every pad is 18 by 24. Every painting should be this. Yeah. That's a little bit too small. That's more sketchy.
Yeah.
but everything should be this size. Because in reality, if you go to museums, paintings this big or that big, no, they're massive, right? But houses are different today, you know. They either want this, and if they want a big painting, it's because they got one giant wall. You know? So things change. All right, so let's keep going with the lips, but I'm gonna put a little highlight here. See how that instantly brings up life to her face? So hopefully this isn't too confusing. I'm gonna go a little bit orangier here. See how I'm throwing some warmth on there? Now I'm warming her up a little bit there. But then I need some, right now it looks too odd, I need some coolness here. If you're a trained painter, you can paint any size. Doesn't matter. Large, small, you know. Ooh, almost, got a couple minutes. Let's get some more. So as the colors get darker towards the halftones, they get a little more chroma. Chroma is the intensity, right? So as this went towards this area, I made it a little more brighter, more intense, even though it's a darker value. Let's throw some highlights. There's a little bit of the muscle here from the cheekbone. This gives it the roundness. It should be warm. That's too cold. Let's make it warmer. I always make this lighter in value than it is, unless it helps with the likeness, because this will age everybody, no matter if they're 12, okay? It'll age you.
What will age you?
This little crease right here. You always want to keep that to minimal. I like to kill those creases. I tell people about a portrait commission I got of a lady. She's like 80, very successful realty developer in the city. And she goes, don't put the wrinkles in. And that's all she cared about. When she came to pick it up, her and her daughter-in-law, all she did was look at her face. She goes, I'll take it. Because I it looked like her, but I kept a lot of what she didn't want in there, which is fine. She's paid. It was fun to do. It's a nice challenge. She's beautiful though. See how I warmed that up? That's a cool pink. Okay. Let's take this pink that's a little bit white. Can we use it anywhere here? Now, does it really stand out? Not much. Why? Because it's the same value. See how I made it a little crazier pink? Now I'm going to put a little bit of that light flesh and then soften my edges here. Now I want to get those lips softer. Everywhere around the lips. You want them soft. Oops, dirty. Restate back. Any questions? It's pretty simple, right? Okay, let's do the highlights.
Well, you made it look simple.
Well, what's a good highlight? There's one here. There's one there. I pushed that a little bit. I don't want the one here as much. I'll soften that away though. See how I soften it away? And there's actually these highlights here. I like these. Sneak up on those highlights. There's a highlight here. So see how I put that in and I put the highlights, the lighter values around it? It made it look too dark. Now I gotta lighten it. But I knew I was gonna do that.
Excuse me, but the shadow on her nose seems excessively dark.
Yes, it is, because I even lightened it once. So let's do that. So remember what I said is go for the photo and then let's make it lighter. Watch this. And this is the last thing I'll do. So let's make it lighter and we'll warm it up. Oop. Boom. Now, why does it look lighter? Why is it really lighter? You ever ask yourself, guys? It's because it's getting what?
Reflected light.
Yes, that's why it's getting lighter. And it's also, what is it reflecting on? What is the skin? Yes, her skin is warm, right? So you got to think about the local color when light hits it or reflected light. So as I'm making that blue, I'm also warming up that blue. right? So I warm up that blue and it makes it look more like the flesh. But we're not here about making things realistic. We're here about being creative,
That's amazing.
okay?
Just that.
We want to
Glad
push
you
it.
saw that too, didn't you?
Yeah, it
What a
just is
difference that
incredible.
one stroke.
And that red there
Like,
is
just-
the halftone, that's where the chroma is pushed. Because if you look at the guys that I look at, you know, the way I use photos the way the dead guys used them. They just use black and white. And that's why I try to use black and white. So I only get the values. I don't get the colors influencing me.
That changed it a lot, changing the nose.
Yeah. Anyway, it finishes it. I mean, this is just a sketch. This is just, you know, I mean, not even an hour. But okay, see how soft this edge is? Soft. Why is it soft? Because it's a rounded edge. There's planes going back into the distance.
What do you mean by rounded edge?
So I'm going to bring in the cast. So we have edges on everything. So I have a top edge, a side plane, a top plane. So those are, and where they meet, creates an edge. And I'll bring this cast in that explains it. So as this head turns away, and I'll show you with that planes of the light source, you'll start to see things stay in the light, things start to get darker into the shadows, but also those edges soften. So as round things, if you ever see the drawing of a sphere with a bunch of planes, right? That's what's happening here. This has a lot of planes. It doesn't look it, we don't see it here, but there's planes there, and when you have a lot of planes going into the distance, that softens the edge.
So you're changing the temperature.
Well, you could change it, you could turn it with changing the temperature. But if you have something that's very right angled, or maybe there's 3 planes, or maybe something like this, you're gonna see more of an abrupt edge, a harder edge, because it turns right away. Where round things have more edges, okay? So I could even make this darker, and this has to get darker here. Oh, let's go with this. So see how I used red over here? I could probably put some of the red over there. Because of the same value, it's gonna work, okay? And don't even, if you don't wanna even, because it's only one day, if you don't wanna think about temperature and just go with color, and just say, I'm just gonna make it simple values, use whatever temperature there is, I'm just gonna go for it. I'll be happy with that, okay? So now I got a painting of a woman that quickly, and if we look at this, you know, it's an interesting painting now instead of just having these Band-Aid colors, right? Now, and then one thing I tested is, where's my phone? Oh, it's on here. I'm gonna turn this off.